Imagine leaving Earth for the last time, not with panic or drama, but with quiet confidence, believing that science, training, and technology have finally made humanity strong enough to survive beyond its home planet. From a distance, space looks like the future, a vast, silent frontier waiting to be explored, and for generations we have been told that it is only a matter of time before humans live among the stars. But when you strip away the romance and listen to what real data, real missions, and real human bodies have revealed, a far more unsettling picture begins to emerge. Space does not defeat us with explosions or sudden disaster, and it does not test our courage the way movies suggest. Instead, it works slowly and methodically, changing the human body in ways that feel almost invisible at first. Bones weaken without pain, muscles lose their purpose, hearts shrink from lack of resistance, and brains adapt to signals they were never designed to process, all while the astronaut feels functional, capable, and alive. What makes this so disturbing is that none of these changes are malfunctions or failures, because the body is doing exactly what it evolved to do, which is adapt to its environment as efficiently as possible. The problem is that the longer we remain away from Earth, the more the body adjusts to space, and the less compatible it becomes with the planet that shaped it. The discoveries you are about to hear are not speculation or science fiction, but measured changes observed in humans who spent only a fraction of the time that future missions would require. When these discoveries are viewed together, they point toward a conclusion that is difficult to accept, because they suggest that long-term human survival beyond Earth may not be limited by technology or ambition, but by the simple fact that the human body itself was never meant to leave home. One of the earliest and most disturbing discoveries scientists made about long-term human survival in space did not come from advanced telescopes or distant probes, but from the bodies of astronauts who returned to Earth, seemingly unharmed yet fundamentally altered, because when humans leave Earth's gravity, the skeletal system begins to fail in a quiet and relentless way that feels almost unreal. Bones exist for one primary reason, which is to withstand constant mechanical stress, and on Earth, every single movement, every step, every time you stand upright or shift your weight, gravity places pressure on your skeleton that signals your body to maintain bone strength. In space, that signal disappears almost entirely, and when the body no longer detects stress on bones, it begins a process called bone resorption, where old bone tissue is broken down faster than new bone can be created. Astronauts in microgravity lose between 1 and 3% of their bone density every single month, a number that sounds manageable until it is placed into real time, because after 6 months this can mean up to 18% bone loss, after 1 year up to 36%, and after 2 years more than half of the original bone density can be gone. To understand how extreme this is, doctors compare it to osteoporosis, a disease that takes decades to weaken bones on Earth. Yet in space, this same level of skeletal fragility can develop in a young, healthy astronaut in a matter of months. The most affected bones are the weight-bearing structures, the hips, the femurs, and the spine, which are precisely the bones required for standing, walking, and even remaining upright under Earth's gravity. At the microscopic level, bone tissue becomes porous and brittle, losing its internal lattice-like structure that provides strength, meaning the bone may look intact from the outside while being dangerously fragile on the inside. This damage is not merely theoretical, because astronauts returning from relatively short missions often struggle to walk, require physical assistance, and face a high risk of fractures even under normal Earth conditions. Scientists once believed that bone loss would stabilize after an initial adjustment period, but decades of data have proven that this is not true, because bone degradation continues for as long as gravity remains absent or reduced. Even intensive countermeasures, such as resistance exercise for 2 hours a day using specialized equipment, only slow the process and do not stop it. The body, following evolutionary logic, interprets unused bone mass as unnecessary weight and eliminates it to conserve energy, which is a perfectly sensible adaptation in space, but a catastrophic one for life on Earth. Worse still, The calcium released from dissolving bones does not simply vanish, because it enters the bloodstream and is excreted through the kidneys, dramatically increasing the risk of kidney stones, which in deep space would represent a medical emergency with no possibility of evacuation or specialized treatment. After astronauts return to Earth, bone recovery is slow, incomplete, and sometimes never fully achieved, with some individuals permanently losing a portion of their skeletal strength, despite years of rehabilitation. This means the damage is not just temporary discomfort, but a long-term transformation of the body's structural integrity. On missions to Mars, this problem becomes exponentially more severe, because astronauts would experience 6 to 9 months of complete weightlessness during transit, followed by months or years on Mars under only 38% of Earth's gravity, which is insufficient to fully stimulate bone maintenance, and then another prolonged period of weightlessness on the return journey. By the time such a mission ends, the skeletal system may no longer be capable of supporting the body under full Earth gravity without serious risk of collapse or fracture. Standing up could break hips, walking could shatter weakened femurs, and even minor falls could become fatal. The terrifying reality is that the body does not fail suddenly or dramatically, but adapts smoothly and efficiently to a low-gravity environment, optimizing itself for survival away from Earth, while quietly abandoning the structural strength required to ever return. This discovery shattered the early assumption that humans could simply travel to other worlds and come back unchanged, because it revealed that gravity is not just a background condition of life, but a fundamental requirement for maintaining the physical framework of the human body. Without it, the skeleton slowly dissolves, turning the human body into something lighter, weaker, and increasingly incompatible with the planet that created it. When humans leave Earth, it is not only their bones that begin to fail, but also the muscles that once worked constantly to hold the body upright. Because in the absence of gravity, the muscular system loses its purpose in ways that are both rapid and deeply unsettling. On Earth, nearly every muscle in the lower body, back and core, is engaged in a constant battle against gravity, stabilizing posture, enabling movement, and preventing collapse. But in space, this struggle simply vanishes. Without the need to support body weight, muscles no longer receive the mechanical signals that tell them to remain strong, and the body responds by breaking down muscle tissue to conserve energy. Astronauts lose between 1 and 3% of their muscle mass per month in microgravity, a rate of decline that mirrors severe muscle-wasting diseases on Earth, yet unfolds silently and without pain. The muscles most affected are the very ones humans rely on for survival under gravity, including the calves, quadriceps, hamstrings, gluteal muscles, spinal stabilizers, and deep core muscles that maintain balance and posture. As muscle fibers shrink, their internal structure changes in a way that fundamentally alters how the body functions, because endurance-oriented slow-twitch fibers, designed for sustained activity and posture control, are gradually replaced by fast-twitch fibers that are optimized for short bursts of movement but fatigue quickly. This transformation might seem harmless or even advantageous at first, but it creates a body that is incapable of maintaining prolonged upright posture or repetitive movement, which are essential for walking, standing, and working on Earth. Astronauts returning from space missions frequently report that simple actions, such as standing up from a chair, climbing stairs, or walking short distances, leave them trembling with exhaustion, because the muscles required for these tasks have partially forgotten how to function under continuous load. Even with strict exercise regimens aboard spacecraft, including daily resistance training designed to mimic weightlifting, muscle atrophy continues, because artificial resistance cannot fully replicate the constant, omnidirectional pull of gravity. The problem becomes far more severe during long-duration missions, where months turn into years, and the cumulative effect of muscle loss compounds with bone deterioration, creating a body that is structurally unstable and functionally weak. At the cellular level, muscle fibers lose mitochondria, the energy-producing structures that allow sustained contraction, leading to reduced stamina and slower recovery from fatigue. Neural connections between the brain and muscles also weaken, impairing coordination, reflexes, and fine motor control, which are critical for complex tasks and emergency responses. When astronauts return to Earth, muscles must suddenly support full body weight again, but many are simply incapable of doing so, leading to collapse, injury, and long rehabilitation periods. In some cases, full muscle strength is never completely restored, because prolonged disuse alters muscle stem cells that are responsible for regeneration. On a Mars mission, this problem becomes even more dangerous, because the partial gravity of Mars is insufficient to halt muscle atrophy, meaning deterioration would continue throughout the stay on the planet. By the time astronauts attempt to return to Earth, their muscles may be so weakened that standing upright could cause tears, falls, or severe injuries, and the physical act of re-entering a high-gravity environment could overwhelm a body that has adapted to a lighter world. The unsettling truth revealed by this discovery is that muscles are not loyal to Earth but to their environment, and when gravity is removed long enough, the human body willingly sacrifices strength, endurance, and stability in exchange for efficiency in space. This adaptation may allow survival away from Earth, but it quietly ensures that the body becomes less and less capable of ever functioning normally on the planet where it evolved. As the body adapts to life beyond Earth, one of the most dangerous transformations occurs in the organ that keeps every other system alive, because the human heart is designed to work relentlessly against gravity, and when that resistance disappears, the heart begins to fail in a way that is subtle, progressive, and profoundly alarming. On Earth, gravity constantly pulls blood downward, forcing the heart to pump with enough strength to push blood upward to the brain and upper body, and this continuous effort keeps the heart muscle strong and resilient. In space, gravity no longer pulls blood toward the lower body, and instead fluids shift upward, pooling in the chest, neck, and head, giving astronauts their characteristic puffy faces and thin, weakened legs. The body interprets this fluid shift as an excess of blood and responds by reducing total blood volume, sometimes by as much as 20%, because it believes less circulation is needed. As blood volume decreases, the heart no longer has to work as hard, and like any muscle that is no longer challenged, it begins to shrink. Medical scans of astronauts have revealed that the heart can lose up to 20% of its mass during extended missions in microgravity, meaning it physically becomes smaller and weaker over time. This change is not immediately noticeable in space, because the reduced gravitational demands mask the problem, allowing astronauts to function normally in a low-gravity environment. The danger becomes apparent only when gravity returns, because a heart that has adapted to weightlessness suddenly faces the full resistance of Earth's gravity again. When this weakened heart attempts to pump blood upward, it often fails to maintain adequate blood pressure, causing dizziness, nausea, and fainting, a condition known as orthostatic intolerance. Many astronauts returning from relatively short missions require assistance simply to stand upright, because their hearts struggle to deliver sufficient blood to the brain. This effect is temporary for some, but for others it persists for months or longer, indicating that cardiac recovery is slow and incomplete. During long-duration missions, the risk escalates dramatically, because prolonged exposure to microgravity allows the heart to remodel itself structurally, reducing muscle thickness and altering the way it contracts. At the same time, radiation exposure damages blood vessels and accelerates cardiovascular aging, stiffening arteries and impairing circulation, which further increases strain on an already weakened heart. When these factors combine, the heart is no longer merely deconditioned but fundamentally altered, optimized for a low-gravity environment and poorly suited for life on Earth. On a mission to Mars, astronauts would spend many months in complete weightlessness, followed by an extended stay in partial gravity that is insufficient to fully retrain the heart, and then another long period of microgravity during the return journey. By the end of such a mission, the heart may have adapted so completely to reduced gravitational demands that returning to Earth's gravity could place overwhelming stress on the cardiovascular system. Standing up could cause sudden drops in blood pressure, fainting, or even cardiac failure, because the heart lacks the strength to overcome gravity's pull. In extreme cases, the risk of stroke or heart attack could increase, especially when combined with radiation-induced damage and reduced blood volume. This discovery shattered the assumption that the heart would simply bounce back once gravity was restored, because it revealed that prolonged absence of gravity allows the cardiovascular system to reconfigure itself in ways that are difficult or impossible to reverse. The heart does not remain loyal to Earth's environment, but adapts efficiently to wherever the body exists, even if that adaptation ultimately makes survival on Earth impossible. In this way, space does not kill the heart outright, but patiently reshapes it into a pump built for another world, one that may no longer be capable of sustaining life on the planet where it first learned to beat. Beyond the protective cocoon of Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field, the human body is exposed to a relentless storm of cosmic radiation that penetrates flesh, bone, and organs without resistance, making space not just empty but biologically hostile in a way that is invisible and unavoidable. On Earth, nearly all harmful radiation from the sun and deep space is deflected or absorbed before it can reach us, which is why human biology evolved without the need to defend itself against constant high-energy particle bombardment. In space, that protection vanishes, and astronauts are exposed to radiation levels hundreds of times greater than what humans experience on the surface of Earth. During a long-duration mission beyond low Earth orbit, such as a journey to Mars, astronauts can accumulate between 800 and 1200 millisieverts of radiation, a dose equivalent to hundreds of CT scans or tens of thousands of X-rays delivered directly to living tissue. This radiation is not uniform or gentle because it consists of high-energy particles that slam into cells with enough force to shatter DNA strands, damage chromosomes, and disrupt the molecular machinery that keeps cells functioning normally. Unlike radiation exposure on Earth, which often comes in short, controlled bursts, cosmic radiation in space is continuous, meaning the body is never given time to fully repair itself. As DNA damage accumulates, the risk of cancer rises dramatically, with studies estimating a 5 to 10% increase in lifetime cancer risk for astronauts on Mars-class missions, a figure that may be even higher when long-term effects are fully understood. However, cancer is only part of the danger, because radiation also accelerates aging in the cardiovascular system by damaging blood vessels, promoting inflammation, and increasing the risk of heart disease and stroke. The brain is particularly vulnerable, because radiation can cross the blood-brain barrier and damage neurons directly, leading to measurable cognitive decline. Animal studies and astronaut data suggest that prolonged radiation exposure can impair memory, slow reaction times, reduce problem-solving ability, and alter emotional regulation, changes that could become permanent over time. This is especially alarming in deep space, where quick thinking and precise decision-making are essential for survival, and where cognitive impairment could turn minor problems into fatal emergencies. The eyes are also affected, with radiation increasing the risk of early-onset cataracts that cloud vision and reduce visual acuity, sometimes permanently. The immune system suffers as well, because radiation damages bone marrow, the source of immune cells, leaving the body less capable of fighting infections and healing wounds. Attempts to shield astronauts from radiation face severe limitations, because thick shielding materials can generate secondary radiation when struck by high-energy particles, creating new hazards rather than eliminating existing ones. Unlike many other dangers of spaceflight, radiation cannot be avoided through training, exercise, or behavioral adaptation, because it acts silently at the cellular level regardless of human effort. Over months and years, this constant bombardment fundamentally alters the body, not by causing immediate collapse, but by slowly degrading the systems that sustain life. By the time symptoms become noticeable, the damage may already be extensive and irreversible. On a mission lasting several years, radiation exposure compounds with bone loss, muscle atrophy, and cardiovascular weakening, amplifying their effects and reducing the body's ability to recover. This discovery revealed a harsh truth that no amount of courage or technology can fully escape, because even if humans survive the journey physically and mentally, their bodies may return fundamentally changed at the genetic and cellular level. Space does not merely challenge the human body from the outside, but invades it from within, rewriting biological instructions that evolved under the protection of Earth, and in doing so, it quietly undermines the possibility of long-term human survival beyond our home planet. Among the most unsettling discoveries made during long-duration spaceflight is the realization that the human brain does not merely react to space psychologically, but is physically reshaped by it, because the brain evolved under constant gravity and stable sensory inputs that vanish once Earth is left behind. In microgravity, fluids that are normally pulled downward by gravity shift upward toward the head, increasing pressure inside the skull and altering the delicate balance of cerebrospinal fluid that cushions and protects the brain. Medical imaging has shown that during extended space missions, this fluid redistribution can cause the brain to shift upward within the skull, subtly changing its shape and position. These shifts are not cosmetic because they place pressure on critical neural structures and interfere with how signals are transmitted between different regions of the brain. MRI scans of astronauts before and after spaceflight have revealed changes in brain volume, compression of certain areas, and expansion of fluid-filled spaces, indicating that the brain is adapting structurally to a new environment rather than simply returning to its original state. Astronauts often report cognitive changes during and after missions, including difficulty concentrating, slower reaction times, impaired short-term memory, and reduced multitasking ability, effects that are deeply concerning in an environment where precision and rapid decision-making can mean the difference between life and death. These are not stress-induced symptoms or temporary psychological fatigue because they correlate with measurable physical changes observed in brain scans. The brain also relies on gravity-dependent sensory cues to maintain balance and spatial orientation, and when those cues disappear, the brain must rewire itself to interpret motion, orientation, and body position in entirely new ways. This neural adaptation can lead to space motion sickness, disorientation, and impaired coordination, especially during transitions between gravity levels. Over time, the brain becomes increasingly specialized for a low-gravity environment, learning to function without the constant reference points it once depended on. The danger emerges when gravity is reintroduced, because a brain that has adapted to microgravity may struggle to recalibrate to Earth's conditions, leading to confusion, dizziness, and impaired motor control. In some astronauts, these effects persist long after returning to Earth, suggesting that certain neural changes may be long-lasting or even permanent. Radiation exposure compounds the problem, because high-energy particles can damage neurons directly and disrupt neural networks involved in memory, learning, and emotional regulation. Studies on animals exposed to space-like radiation have shown reduced neurogenesis, increased inflammation in the brain, and cognitive deficits that worsen over time. In humans, this raises the possibility that extended missions could accelerate neurodegenerative processes or create subtle impairments that only become apparent years later. The brain is remarkably plastic, capable of adapting to new environments, but this flexibility comes at a cost, because adaptation to space may require abandoning configurations that are essential for life on Earth. On a multi-year mission, these structural and functional changes accumulate, gradually producing a brain that is optimized for an environment humans were never meant to inhabit. Returning to Earth after such profound neural adaptation may not restore the brain to its original state, because neural pathways that are unused for long periods weaken or disappear altogether. This discovery shattered the assumption that the mind would remain intact as long as the body survived, because it revealed that the brain itself is reshaped by the absence of gravity and the presence of radiation. Space does not simply challenge human cognition temporarily, but alters the physical architecture of the brain in ways that may permanently change how a person thinks, remembers, and perceives reality, raising the disturbing possibility that long-term space travelers may return not just physically weakened, but mentally transformed in ways that cannot be undone. One of the most unexpected and disturbing discoveries made during extended spaceflight is that human vision, something most people assume to be resilient, begins to fail in ways that are poorly understood and sometimes irreversible, because the eyes and visual system evolved under constant gravity and stable fluid pressures that no longer exist in space. In microgravity, bodily fluids shift upward toward the head, increasing pressure inside the skull and around the optic nerves, a condition now known as spaceflight-associated neuroocular syndrome. As this pressure builds, it physically alters the shape of the eyeball, flattening it slightly at the back and changing how light is focused onto the retina. Astronauts often notice blurred vision, difficulty focusing, and reduced sharpness, sometimes within weeks or months of entering space. Medical examinations have revealed swelling of the optic nerve, folds in the retina, and changes in the thickness of ocular tissues, all signs that the eye is being structurally deformed rather than temporarily strained. What makes this discovery particularly alarming is that in many cases, vision does not fully return to normal after astronauts come back to Earth, even after months or years of recovery. Some astronauts require corrective lenses permanently after missions, despite having perfect eyesight before launch. The underlying problem is not simply pressure but the brain's adaptation to altered sensory input, because the visual system is tightly integrated with balance, motion, and spatial orientation, all of which are disrupted in microgravity. As the brain adapts to new visual cues in space, it rewires how it processes depth, movement, and focus, potentially locking in patterns that are maladaptive on Earth. Radiation exposure further increases the risk, because high-energy particles can damage the lens of the eye, dramatically raising the likelihood of early-onset cataracts that cloud vision and reduce light transmission. On Earth, cataracts typically develop slowly over decades, but in space, the process can accelerate, affecting astronauts while they are still relatively young. Vision loss in space is not merely an inconvenience, because clear sight is essential for reading instruments, performing repairs, navigating unfamiliar environments, and responding to emergencies. In deep space, or on another planet, impaired vision could turn minor technical issues into fatal situations. The problem becomes even more severe on long-duration missions, where months of fluid shifts, pressure changes, and radiation exposure compound, increasing the likelihood of permanent damage. Mars does not solve this issue, because its reduced gravity is insufficient to fully restore normal fluid distribution, meaning the same pressures that distort the eyes in space may persist on the planet's surface. By the time astronauts attempt to return to Earth, their visual systems may have adapted so completely to altered conditions that full recovery is no longer possible. This discovery undermined the assumption that sensory systems would naturally rebound once gravity was restored, because it revealed that prolonged exposure to space can physically reshape the organs responsible for perception. The eyes, like bones, muscles, and the brain, adapt efficiently to their environment, even if that adaptation permanently compromises their function elsewhere. In this way, space quietly robs humans of one of their most vital senses, not through sudden injury, but through gradual, structural change that may never fully heal, reinforcing the unsettling truth that the human body is not designed to see clearly beyond the planet that shaped it. As humans spend extended time in space, scientists discovered that the immune system, which normally protects the body silently and efficiently, begins to behave in unpredictable and sometimes alarming ways because it evolved to function under Earth's gravity, stable radiation levels, and familiar microbial environments that vanish once the planet is left behind. In microgravity, immune cells change how they move, communicate, and respond to threats, leading to a weakened and disorganized defense system that no longer reacts reliably to infections or injuries. Studies have shown that key immune cells, including T cells, become less effective at activating and multiplying, which reduces the body's ability to fight viruses and bacteria. At the same time, dormant viruses that have remained inactive in the body for years, such as herpes-related viruses, often reactivate during space missions, indicating that immune surveillance is compromised. This means that astronauts can experience viral flare-ups even in the sterile environment of a spacecraft, revealing how deeply space disrupts internal biological balance. Wound healing also slows significantly because immune cells that normally coordinate tissue repair struggle to function correctly, increasing the risk that minor injuries could become serious problems. Radiation exposure compounds this issue by damaging bone marrow, where immune cells are produced, reducing the overall supply of fresh, functional immune cells over time. In a deep space mission, this creates a dangerous situation in which the body is simultaneously more vulnerable to infection and less capable of mounting an effective response. Unlike on Earth, where medical facilities, antibiotics, and specialized care are readily available, Space offers no backup, no rapid treatment, and no evacuation options. A simple infection that would be easily treatable on Earth could escalate into a life-threatening condition in space, especially when combined with stress, fatigue, and limited medical resources. The immune system's unpredictability is further worsened by isolation and altered day-night cycles, which disrupt circadian rhythms that play a crucial role in regulating immune function. Over time, chronic immune dysregulation can lead not only to increased infection risk, but also to excessive inflammation, where the immune system begins damaging healthy tissue instead of protecting it. This inflammatory state has been linked to cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, and accelerated aging, all of which are already heightened by other aspects of spaceflight. On long missions, these immune changes do not simply stabilize but continue to evolve, creating a body that is increasingly ill-equipped to defend itself. When astronauts return to Earth, immune function does not always return to normal immediately, and in some cases, lingering abnormalities persist, suggesting that prolonged exposure to space can leave lasting scars on the body's defense mechanisms. This discovery shattered the assumption that the immune system would remain robust as long as astronauts were physically fit, because it revealed that immunity is deeply tied to environmental conditions that exist only on Earth. Space does not merely weaken the immune system temporarily, but alters its behavior in ways that are difficult to predict and dangerous to manage, quietly turning the body's greatest protector into an unreliable and sometimes harmful force, and further reinforcing the reality that long-term human survival beyond Earth carries risks that cannot be easily controlled or reversed. One of the most frightening realizations to emerge from long-duration space research is that none of the changes caused by space ever truly pause or level off, because time itself becomes a silent force that steadily converts temporary adaptation into permanent damage. Early in human spaceflight, scientists hoped that the body would reach a new equilibrium after an initial adjustment period, stabilizing once it adapted to microgravity. But decades of data have shown the opposite to be true. Bone loss continues month after month without a natural stopping point. Muscle atrophy deepens with every passing week. Cardiovascular conditioning erodes further as blood volume drops, and neurological changes accumulate as the brain continues to adapt to altered sensory input. Time in space is not neutral, because the longer the body remains away from Earth, the more deeply these changes become embedded into biological systems. What begins as reversible deconditioning slowly crosses a threshold where recovery becomes incomplete or impossible. Cells that are rarely used begin to die or lose functionality. Stem cells responsible for repair become less effective, and regulatory systems that once maintained balance start operating under entirely new assumptions. Even when astronauts return to Earth after relatively short missions, recovery can take months or years, and some functions never fully return to baseline, revealing that time spent in space leaves a lasting imprint on missions lasting multiple years, such as a journey to Mars and back. The cumulative effect of time becomes overwhelming, because every system is degrading simultaneously and reinforcing the failure of the others. Weakened bones increase injury risk, which limits movement, accelerating muscle loss, which further strains the heart, which reduces circulation to the brain, amplifying cognitive decline. Radiation damage compounds continuously because DNA repair mechanisms become less effective over time, allowing mutations and cellular dysfunction to accumulate. The immune system, already destabilized, becomes increasingly unreliable as chronic inflammation and reduced cell production persist. Unlike injuries on Earth, which often trigger repair and adaptation toward recovery, the adaptations caused by space push the body further away from its original design with each passing month. Time transforms what might be survivable discomfort into structural failure, because biological systems that are not used in their intended way gradually dismantle themselves. This is particularly dangerous because the process is largely invisible and painless in its early stages, giving astronauts no clear warning of when the point of no return has been crossed. By the time serious symptoms appear, the underlying damage may already be extensive and irreversible. Mars does not reset the clock, because its partial gravity slows deterioration but does not stop it. meaning time continues its work even on another planet. This discovery revealed that the greatest enemy of human survival in space is not distance or technology, but duration, because the human body can endure almost anything briefly, but it cannot escape the consequences of prolonged existence in an environment it was never meant to inhabit. For a long time, scientists hoped that partial gravity, such as that found on Mars or the Moon, would be enough to protect the human body from the worst effects of space. But one of the most sobering discoveries in modern space research is that reduced gravity is not a solution, only a slower path toward the same outcome. Mars has gravity, but it is only about 38% of Earth's, and while that may sound substantial, it is far below the threshold the human body evolved to depend on. Gravity is not simply an on or off switch for human biology, but a continuous force that must reach a certain intensity to maintain bone density, muscle strength, cardiovascular function, and fluid balance. Studies and simulations suggest that partial gravity does not provide enough mechanical stress to fully stimulate bone formation, meaning bones continue to lose density even when a person is no longer weightless. Muscles, especially those in the legs, hips, and back, still do not experience the constant resistance needed to remain strong, causing ongoing atrophy despite daily movement on the planet's surface. The heart, already weakened by months of microgravity during transit, does not fully retrain itself under partial gravity, because the cardiovascular system still does not face the full challenge of pumping blood against Earth-level resistance. Fluids continue to shift abnormally in the body, maintaining pressure in the head and contributing to vision problems and brain changes that began in space. What makes this discovery especially dangerous is that partial gravity creates a false sense of recovery, because astronauts may feel more capable than they truly are, masking the continued deterioration happening beneath the surface. A person living on Mars might be able to walk, work, and function for a time, but their body would still be slowly adapting away from Earth's requirements. Over months and years, this creates a human who is neither fully adapted to Earth nor fully optimized for Mars, existing in a fragile biological middle ground. When combined with ongoing radiation exposure, reduced medical support, and prolonged isolation, partial gravity becomes less of a refuge and more of a prolonged stressor. By the time a return to Earth is attempted, the body may have lost so much bone density, muscle strength, and cardiovascular resilience that the transition back to full gravity becomes life-threatening. Standing upright could cause fractures, walking could result in severe injury, and the heart could struggle to maintain blood flow to the brain. This discovery dismantled the comforting idea that humans could simply rest on another planet and recover, because it revealed that gravity below Earth's level is not enough to preserve the body we recognize as human. Partial gravity does not stop degeneration, it only stretches it across time, quietly ensuring that the longer humans remain away from Earth, the less compatible their bodies become with the planet that created them. The final and most disturbing discovery is not tied to any single organ or system, but to the fundamental way the human body responds to prolonged exposure beyond Earth, because when all these changes are observed together, scientists realize the body is not breaking down randomly but adapting efficiently toward a new environment that is incompatible with its place of origin. Evolution did not design the human body to preserve Earth-based function at all costs, but to survive wherever it exists, using the least amount of energy necessary. In space and partial gravity, bones become lighter because heavy bones are no longer useful, muscles shrink because constant strength is no longer required, the heart weakens because gravity no longer demands powerful circulation, and the brain rewires itself to process altered sensory inputs. Each of these changes makes sense in isolation, but together they form a body that is optimized for a low-gravity, high-radiation environment rather than for Earth. This adaptation is not conscious or reversible by willpower, because it is driven by cellular signaling, genetic expression, and biological efficiency. Over months and years, the body begins to treat Earth-like conditions as abnormal, because it has learned a new baseline for survival. The longer this process continues, the more foreign Earth's gravity becomes, turning it from a familiar constant into a hostile force that stresses weakened bones, overburdens a reduced heart, and overwhelms altered neural systems. At a certain point, returning to Earth is no longer a matter of rehabilitation, but a biological shock that the body may not survive. This is the moment when adaptation becomes exile, because the human body has quietly crossed a threshold where it no longer belongs to its planet of origin. The most unsettling aspect of this discovery is that there is no clear warning when this threshold is reached, because the body does not fail dramatically or signal distress until the damage is already done. Space does not kill humans quickly or violently, but reshapes them patiently into something else, something lighter, weaker, and fundamentally incompatible with Earth's gravity and biology. This realization has forced scientists to confront a truth that challenges humanity's greatest dreams, because it suggests that long-term survival beyond Earth may require abandoning the human body as we know it, or accepting that leaving Earth means never truly returning. When humanity looks toward the stars, it imagines exploration, progress, and destiny, but what science has revealed is far more unsettling, because the universe does not meet us with wonder, but with indifference. Space does not hate us, and it does not try to stop us, but it quietly strips away the conditions that made us human in the first place. Bone by bone, muscle by muscle, cell by cell, the body adapts away from Earth until the planet that gave us life becomes physically uninhabitable to us. These discoveries do not mean that humans will never travel beyond Earth, but they do mean that such journeys come with a price that cannot be ignored or easily reversed. The dream of returning home may be the first thing space takes from us, not through catastrophe, but through slow and silent transformation. In the end, the greatest barrier to human survival in space is not distance, technology, or courage, but biology itself, because we are creatures shaped by one world, and the farther we go from it, the less we resemble the beings who once called it home.